Hi, welcome. Good morning. My name's Dave. Let's talk about some logistics and possibilities here as we get started. I'm going to quickly upload two documents into the chat for you, which I will use today. Give me just 1 second to do that. Yeah, here's one. And here's two. All right. Slow mode is enabled. I cannot send another message for 5 seconds. Okay. Maybe that's how we're dealing with the bandwidth stuff. Okay, I am not seeing documents uploaded. So if they don't upload in a minute, maybe we don't have the ability to upload documents. Sean Korsgaard is here. Okay, fantastic. So look, I am in the chat. Okay. I am also, oh, there we go. They uploaded. Fantastic. I am also going to try to juggle two things. Okay. Okay. Oh, we have a little bit of lag. All right. So there are some possible technical issues. Okay. My team, here are the possible technical issues. One, last night I was on a panel and it had 13 minutes of lag. 13 minutes. That is going to kill this. Okay. If we get 13 minutes of lag, I am going to start a Zoom conference, put the link in here, and we will all jump onto Zoom. Okay, so tell me about lag. If it gets big, then we're just going to jump onto Zoom. And I already told the LTW that I might do that. They might find this empty. Okay, we have a solution in place, but only if you tell me we're lagging. Why is lag a problem? Because I want to have a conversation with you. I am not here to talk at you for 2 hours. I want to talk with you. In fact, actually, more than just the conversation, the goal for the next 2 hours is that you will write a query letter. Okay, you are here to write a query letter. So I'm going to show you like my queries and sort of talk about, we'll critique them. They're not perfect. That's why I'm showing them to you. But this is gonna. I'm a corporate trainer by day, and this is going to be not homework, classwork. You do it right here, Monjo. Yeah, we might have to switch to Zoom. That is our backup plan. At various times, I'm going to say, okay, now we're going to stop, and we're going to, everyone take 3 minutes, do the following, write the following paragraph, write the following exercise. Okay. All right, good. Zarapath, keep me updated on that. Okay. And also, as you can tell, I use the chat, so you can talk to me there and tell me stuff. You can ask questions. I'm watching the whole time. So that's technical issue number one is lag. Technical issue number two is that I am running a presentation, but I also want to see the chat. And the presentation is running in one server, and I think I can just Alt-Tab back and forth between the two windows to advance the screen. If for some reason that does not work and it gets all fargled up, again, we will go to plan B and jump to Zoom if we have to. Okay. All right. Hey, actually, there's something else I want to tell you before I forget. Just in case you don't hate the idea of free books, I'm actually giving away a stack of 5 books this week. They're not all by me. One of them is by, I can't post. Only every 10 seconds. Okay. 2 of the special writing guests at the symposium here, Troy Lambert and Michael Brent Collings, me, Stan Wheeler, and Mike Rothman are giving away a stack of signed thrillers. This is where you enter for a chance to win. All right. So, having said that, now we're gonna experiment with the Alt tab. Of course, I don't have an Alt. Is it Command tab? Let's try Command tab. See if that works. Oh, I can Command tab and choose PowerPoint, and then I can advance, and then I can Command tab, and choose, what the hell was it? Chrome. Command tab, Chrome. Okay, that works. It's a little awkward. I'm using, I'm on a Mac. Anyway, Command tab worked. It's going to be a little awkward. Sorry about that. All right, let me tell you briefly about myself. I know some of you guys. Woo! Lisa, awesome. And some of you I don't. So just so you got a sense of where I'm coming from, I'm actually a lawyer by original training. Boo. Still technically a member of the New York Bar. I do basically don't do any legal work at all. I'm also a corporate trainer. As of about 14 months ago, I'm a registered investment banking representative. So I'm a founding member of a small mergers and acquisitions consulting firm. That's just how I make money. How I make art is I write. My 10th traditionally published novel, The Jupiter Knife, came out last week. I'm published by Adult Science Fiction and Fantasy by Baen. I've got a trilogy out with Knopf, which is a Random House imprint. I've also got several indie novels out published by Wordfire Press and by Immortal Works. I was the acquisitions editor at Wordfire Press for 3 years. On top of that, I've also done some anthology editing work with Immortal Works, and that's kind of a background of me. Thank you. I am quite fancy. Look, you should listen to people who actually know what they're talking about. That's a real problem with these writing events, is it's not always clear who knows what the hell they're saying. So let me tell you about some successful queries. I got my first agent, Peter Ruby, with a cold query. Okay, wrote a book, wrote the query, sent it in, and got him. He dumped me a year later. And that's a whole different panel. And I got my second agent, Deborah Warren, on a query. My wife, after I got an agent on the basically second try, said, "Oh, this is clearly something anyone can do this." So she wrote a book, and I helped her write her query, and she picked up an agent. The publishing deals I have, one at Knopf, 4 at Baen, and one at Immortal Works. On all of them, I wrote the query. My agent has contacts, and she calls people and stuff. I put together the queries. So look, here's the deal. You can do this. Okay, you can do this. Agents and editors are open to being queried by strangers. They have to be. It is work, and you have to be able to have kind of a tight gut to take the punches. But you can do it because I've done it. The goal today, I've already said this, is you're going to have a good query letter, or if not a complete query letter, at least a good draft, and you will know what to do with it. Okay. I put the documents in the chat. You're going to need to write. I would suggest that you write actually typing, because what I'll do is I'll say, "Hey, go write this," and then put your paragraph in the chat, and we'll kind of look at them and talk about them together. I know that feels embarrassing. You're going to share with everybody. Hey, in a live event, I do small groups. We can't really do small groups effectively. And besides, you're only going to share after seeing my stuff, so that's fair. Let me just jump back real quick and make sure I'm not missing too much in the chat while I'm sitting here talking. Applause. Okay, perfect. Sarah, thank you very much. All right. So let's talk about what is a query. What is a query? Look, a query is you are asking a professional to do something. Okay. You are asking a professional to do something. If it's an agent, what you're saying, and I'm going to sort of basically focus on agents today. Okay. Because my guess is that's the most common kind of query you're going to write. You are asking the agent to consider representing you. Specifically, you are saying, "Hey, may I send you the complete novel for you to read it and consider representing me?" That's the question that you are asking. Okay. If it's there may be other kinds of queries. Would you consider an anthology that I'm going to publish? You may write to editors and query them about, query them directly. Would you publish me? We're going to focus on agent queries. So look at my manuscript and consider representing me. Now it just goes back and forth now. Oh, perfect. Okay, there we go. It just got a lot simpler. Okay, now a query has, now listen, I'm going to sort of talk about, I'm going to say things like a query letter has 3 paragraphs. Okay. And then I'm going to show you query letters that don't have 3 paragraphs. Ha ha ha. A 3-paragraph query letter is gold. When you get comfortable with the format and you kind of know what you're talking about, and you want to write 4 paragraphs, or you think there's a reason to pull out a specific sentence in its own paragraph, awesome, do it. Okay. But for now, let's try and stick to the form. A query has 3 paragraphs. Okay. Here's how the paragraphs go. 1, this story sounds good. Okay, that's your first paragraph. This story sounds good. 2, oh man, this story sounds really good. And then 3, the business. Okay? Isn't that simple? This story sounds good. This story sounds really good. 3, the business, where we say, hey, here's the details and here's what I want. Let's start with the business, and we're going to go. So we'll take these backwards. Okay. What goes in the business? Word count. Okay. This manuscript is complete at 80,000 words. By the way, in most circumstances, you shouldn't query until your manuscript's complete. There are stories of people who query when they got a partial manuscript, and many of those stories end in tragedy where they don't finish it, or they irritate agents or whatever. Okay, finish the manuscript and then say in the business, this is complete at 80,000 words. You need to tell your agent genre. Now, there is a temptation here, okay? And the temptation is to try to make your book sound really special by identifying some really funky genre. This is a terrible idea. You need to be able to sell. You want to sell the agent on the book. And the agent, looking at your query, before she can take your book, is going to ask herself, man, can I sell this? And if it says, hey, this is middle reader fantasy. Hey, this is young adult romance. Hey, this is an epic fantasy series. I, the agent, know what that is. I know what publishers publish that. I know editors I can send it to. I know where on the shelves in the bookstore it goes. Okay. Now, of course, online retailing is changing that. But nevertheless, I know who to go talk to and how to sell it. If I get a really funky genre designation because the author's trying to show that she's clever, okay, that alone may mean I don't know how to sell that, and I pass. So simple statement of what the genre is. You say, hey, is this a standalone? Sorry, if I'm peering down like this, it's so I can see the PowerPoint. So if you see me doing that, it's also why I'm wearing my reading glasses. Identify whether the series whether it's a single book, a standalone book, or whether it's a series. Okay. Yes and no, but I think you ought to. That's a good question. 1, it may not. 2, you still want to say what the genre is. You want to identify that you understand genre, that you can. If anything, you want to be clear that, hey, having written these 2 paragraphs, I understand that what I am selling is cyberpunk, right? I haven't written these 2 paragraphs. I understand. And sometimes it won't be in that you might read 2 paragraphs and you might say, well, this could be young adult, or it could be, a story for adults. But you're right. Most of the time, genre will also come to in the first 2 paragraphs. So don't have a third paragraph that's inconsistent with the first 2. Now, look, what is the right answer? The right answer, of course, is the truth. But the most attractive answer. So here's something important to remember: is when you send these queries, you are inviting people to make investments in you, right? And there's a quite a bit of blindness in the investment they're making. They don't really know you. So the more you can tell them, hey Bruce, the more you can tell them, hey, this is a small investment with some good potential, high odds gain, the more attractive you are. So the sort of ideal answer goes something like this. From the point of view of an agent or editor, this book is standalone as is. It comes to a satisfying conclusion on its own. There is room for sequels if that's desired. Okay. Because that says, hey, I could sell this to an editor who's really on the fence, but says, all right, I'll buy 1 book. And I don't have to talk someone into buying 5 or 7. I can't tell you how many times while standing at a table at a Comic-Con, some excited writers come up to me and said, oh, I'm finishing book 3 in my 27-book urban fantasy series. I can't wait what point should I start pitching it? And when you wrote book 1 is the answer. All right. So now qualifications. There are temptations here. Okay. Here's what I'm going to say. Generally, don't include qualifications. Generally, Don't. Yeah, that's exactly right, Tree Hugger. Generally, don't include your qualification. Um, now, by the way, the first time I taught this workshop, we got sidetracked for 20 minutes. Everyone wanted to ask me, "What about this? What about that?" That's cool. Ask me. We'll have that conversation. But I think generally the answer is you don't want to include qualifications because they only matter to the agent if they really matter. When might they really matter? Well, if you're Bruce Webster and you used to have a column in Byte magazine and you're writing, a software Silicon Valley thriller, that's an example of when that might matter, right? If you have that is a great way to phrase it. That's a great way, Tree Hugger, to phrase it. It may be the best that it's clear and also very efficient. If you have anything that it makes it very likely that you'll sell a lot of books, okay? Like, I don't know, if you're Shaquille O'Neal, you should probably put that in your query letter, okay? If you have a mailing list of 200,000 people, and your blog on gardening gets 100,000 hits a day, and you've written a book about a woman who's a gardener and meets a fairy lord in her garden, right? Maybe it's worth saying, I got an enormous blog, I've got a huge mailing list. Here are some things you definitely don't want to say. I'm a teacher. I have an English degree. Don't mention your degrees. Like, honestly, I don't know. Maybe if you have an MFA in, from some really fancy writing program. Well, see, Bruce, that's my point. Usually it doesn't matter, right? Uh-oh, how much lag? So usually your qualifications don't matter. So really, if they will help sell the book, I would point them out. Otherwise, I just wouldn't. Otherwise, I wouldn't say. I would say, don't say you're a teacher. Don't say you're a teacher. Okay, 5 seconds is not great. It's not great, but we'll press forward. I wouldn't say. I would say no writing conferences. I would say no, because you can attend lots of writing conferences. You can be on panels. You can organize writing conferences. I would say no, Tricia. These are good questions. I'm glad you're asking them, because what relevance does that have to whether the book will sell? That's really the question. You're saying, hey, I'm involved in fandom, right? Hey, I'm involved in the scene, but that's no indicator that your book is going to sell. I think real expertise, or especially indications of an audience, maybe. I think if you won the Writers of the Future, I would probably put that. I don't know about honorable mentions. To be candid, Writers of the Future is one I have never entered, so I don't really know. For example, it seems like there's a number of honorable mentions every quarter. I will tell you, having won the AML and the Whitney and the Dragon Award, I might at this point mention some of those in a letter when my agent goes out to query the next thing to publishers that don't know me. Maybe if you're gonna say you publish short stories, I would just not dwell on it. I would just say, I have several, and especially you might want to say pro publication. In other words, if someone who's actually paying a pro rate, which usually means, I don't know what it's defined at these days. Usually it means like 6 or 8 or 10 cents a word, right? You might say I have published a couple of stories. I would not say I published my short story title X in Analog Magazine, and editor Susan said the following. Don't do that. But if you indicate, look, I've got a little bit of professionalism. I've had some success in professional markets, maybe, but play that lightly. Tree Hugger, I don't know, maybe I would, if you're going to do that, I would do it. See, it's interesting. This is like every time. This is like the biggest part of the. This is the question everyone wants to ask. The biggest part of the workshop. LUW. League of Utah Writers. I think if you're gonna say that, I would just be really. I'd say, hey, again, just really briefly, my story X I won the silver quill or whatever it's called. Excellent, Kiri. What do you do if you have no experience? You just don't mention it. Don't say anything, right? You don't have to say, as I think we'll see my first query in a few minutes, and I think I say, this is my first novel. You don't have to say that, okay? You just need to just say nothing, okay? And don't feel inadequate about it. It's the rest of the pitch that's going to hook them, okay? All right, so, okay, very good. So that was relatively fast. So here is an example. When I say an example, I mean, this is from one of my actual query letters. So this is when I decided to take writing seriously, which was about 11 years ago. I first wrote a manuscript that was complete trash. Then I wrote a second book that was awesome, and I picked up an agent with it. And this is the business paragraph from the query. So listen, this query was successful. It picked up an agent. The book actually had a long history after that. That agent dropped me. Emily, my wife, did a rewrite of this book and then actually sold it. And then the publisher went out of business. There's like a whole other panel to talk about disasters and terrible experiences in publishing. But the query was actually successful. Now, having Farrell-Lager, how about if I just say the name of the person, because your questions are sometimes kind of long. But you're right. I should identify who I'm talking to. So look, this query is successful, but it is not perfect. So I want you to look at this paragraph 3, and I want you to tell me some things that I did wrong. Oh, what was the last point after qualifications or experience? That's a good question. You need to extend an invitation, right? And this is what the invitation is. May I send you the complete manuscript for your consideration? So you say at the beginning, I'm seeking representation for novel blah, right? A vampire romance for adults, complete at 80,000 words, right? It is a standalone novel, but has room for sequels. I am, in fact, the lover of a vampire. May I send you the complete novel, the complete manuscript for your consideration? Okay, and this just goes back to, hey, what are you doing here? The agent may know what you're doing. Yeah, okay. Now you guys are giving me critique. I love it. Yeah, what you want. The call to action is how you end on. Yeah, Zarapath, exactly. I say it's my first book. No need to. Yeah, maybe. It is, it's a mystery target. It is a little passive, Bill. Sarah, you're absolutely right. I thought I was being so damn clever. It was stupid. My agent called me out on it. He said, he also said targeted for all readers. He said, no. He said, this is a middle reader story. This is a middle reader story. You say that, and then hopefully you pick up other people. And he was a jerk, but he was right. Yeah, I would put the call to action last, just from a logical point of view, Tanya. That might be sort of the least of the mistakes I made here. Okay. So let's talk about that pasting in the first chapter. So that's actually not a mistake. That's normal. Now I'm getting a couple of you commented on pasting Treehugger and Jordan W. Zarapath, yeah, you shouldn't say that. You should say, sorry. So saying all readers is stupid. I should say what the genre is, who I'm targeting. By the way, Jim Bain, the publisher and founder of Bain, said numbers kill sales. So if you say this is book number 1, people just don't buy it until the series is out. Okay, let's get to the question on the first chapter. We're actually jumping ahead here to the second half of the presentation, but let me tell you what's coming. Okay, you're going to email this to agents. Most agents will say, okay, send me an email query. Here's the email address, and they will tell you what they want. And the large majority of them, what they want is send me your query letter and paste the first 10 pages, chapter into the body of the email. Okay, that is far and away the most common thing agents will tell you to do. So now they may not. They may say, upload your query in this window and upload a PDF of your manuscript over here. Okay. So, you're going to do this very commonly. So, but good job calling me out on it, because it's what I hadn't pointed that out before. So yeah, look, so this is not a perfect query, right? Or this is not a perfect, the business paragraph. It worked anyway, right? No query is perfect, but your critiques, your comments are all spot on. Well done. Okay, so now I'm going to give you, I don't know, maybe 4 minutes. I'm going to give you 4 minutes. Okay, and like I said, the goal today is that you are going to write. You are going to write a query letter. So right now, I'm going to just shut my mouth for 4 minutes, and I want you to write your paragraph, the business, for a completed manuscript, for a work in process. If you're not working on anything or have no plan to do something, write one for a book you know. Okay, if nothing else, write it for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, so that you get the practice. And I want you to, when you write a paragraph, Sean Korsgaard, great question. I want you to copy it, paste it into the chat. And what I'll do is, I won't be able to read or comment on all of them, but I'll pick a few and make a few comments. Okay? I'm now going to be quiet for 4 minutes. Write your business paragraph and then put it in the chat. Okay, some great stuff here. And I'd like to note that actually some great stuff that have taken some slightly different approaches. Tree Hugger did something we'll talk about. He or she, I don't know, put a high concept pitch in, and that's great. I have done that sometimes successfully. Whereas Lisa's was bam, to the point. Also great. Now Chantel asked a good question. It's a tough question. There's a whole other panel to be had about genre and stuff. Honestly, ideally, I don't think you want to say to the agent, I'm not sure which it is. The heart of the matter, okay, two things. Practically speaking, what makes it belong in the YA genre from Amazon's point of view or from Barnes & Noble's point of view is what the editor tells them. The editor will say it's YA or it's adult, fantasy or whatever. Artistically speaking, the question, Chantel, is what are your subplots? If your point of view characters are having subplots that teenagers have, okay, which is finding my place in society. Middle readers have subplots that are figuring out who I am, learning to be independent. Young adults have subplots about first love, first work, encountering the adult world for the first time, okay? If you have those subplots, it's YA, and if you don't, it's not. If you want to be real cynical, the money's probably still bigger in YA, and and call it YA. Now, there's some great stuff in here, and there was a question down here. Trisha, fantastic, to the point, bam. These are great, and then here we go. Monjo. Sorry, I don't know your name. I have to call you by your handle. Okay. So listen, I would not mention other uncompleted manuscripts. I just wouldn't. I would save that. For a conversation with the agent, and the agent's probably not going to say so what happens if they're interested? They'll call you. And in that conversation, you can say, listen, I've got a couple others. They probably don't want you to shoot them all the stuff right away. They may ask about it, or they may say, hey, edit, polish those up and send them to me, and we'll look at them later in the year. Okay? I wouldn't mention those at all in this letter. If anything, what that tends to say is, so here's some hard truth, okay? This is an industry that is full of rejection, and people are looking to reject you all the time, and you want to not give them extra reasons to reject you. And I have 2 uncompleted manuscripts. Can sound like I am unsuccessful. You should reject me, right? I'm not Monjo. I'm not saying that's what I feel. I'm saying that's why I would not mention those manuscripts in the query letter. When I got picked up by my first agent, it was essentially my first book. But when my second agent picked me up, it was not. I had independently published stuff. I had and I had more unsold manuscripts than what she was looking at, and I didn't mention those things. Okay. Because I don't want to say I'm an aspiring writer. I want to say I am a writer. So I would say, hey, title is a science fiction romance. I think that's about as fancy on the genre as you usually want to go, but I think you can go there. Complete at 70,000 words. It's a standalone work. And below is the first chapter. Can I send you the manuscript? So I think you're 70% of the way there, but I wouldn't mention the other ones. Let me just kind of skim down through. Bam, bam. Now, Bill, you're getting ahead of me. You're trying to write all 3 paragraphs. So I like that. Let's come back and look at that when you got the whole thing. But your third paragraph, hey, may I send you a complete manuscript for your consideration? I think that's a good call to action. I would still put word count in there. Although, man, nonfiction, you're kind of in a whole other space. All right. Look, these are by and large. These are by and large great. Sean, word nominated. Yeah, maybe. Okay, fantastic. Wow, there's a lot of people in the event. That's fantastic. Comps can go in the business paragraph, but they may also go elsewhere. I think you'll see before we're done a couple different ways I have done this. Cadence. New adult. Yeah. Okay. There's a whole other conversation to be had about sort of trying to chase genres. I mean, the problem is that genres are dead from a big editor's point of view, not from from big editor's point of view, meaning big publisher, trad publisher. Genre is dead, meaning I won't buy anymore, while readers are still reading it. So you may at the same time you may have editors saying zombies are dead, while people who are selling zombie books are selling them hand over fist. It just means the editors see the end coming or believe they do, so they won't buy any more copies. Sam Duke, awards. Let's see. Yeah. That's kind of at the edge of as far as I'd want to go. Fantasy reimagining the Scarlet Pimpernel. That's awesome. Word count, by the way, that's a little bit long. Not impossible. My first book I sold to Bain was 240,000, but it's just a little bit long. That's interesting. I don't know about mentoring, laurels and roses. I have not had that experience. I would tend not to do it if, like, Dave Farland or somebody worked with you. I can send you guys my slides. Let me see if I can attach them into the chat before we're done here. Okay, all right. Let me. We've already hit on like 5 different whole other panel conversations here, but we need to move on. So look, well done. Let's talk about the first 2 paragraphs. Okay, you all got a business paragraph. How about paragraph 1? This story sounds good. Now, I think the easiest way to kind of see what needs to be in this paragraph 90% of the time is actually to start with a Mad Lib. And if you did not grow up in the 60s and 70s when Mad Libs were all the thing, it's a little paragraph where some of the words are blank, and you write out words and fill in the blanks, and then you laugh at the silliness of what results. But here's the Mad Lib information. In other words, I want you to write a form paragraph. This is not going to be your first paragraph. This is just getting out the information we want in the first paragraph. Okay. Here's what you want. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to write this. Main character. right? Is a something. Say something about it, right? Is a high school senior on the swim team. Is a ninja. Is a princess who suffers migraines. Who more than anything else in the world wants whatever it is to win at state, to to get rid of her migraines, whatever, but can't because problem. Okay, to overcome the problem, she does whatever. Begins researching, pharmaceuticals that are promising for the treatment of migraines. Sets out to assassinate the head of her ninja clan. Because if she fails, there'll be consequences. Okay. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. You're not writing the first paragraph here. You are, exactly, Tricia. You are just getting out the information you need. Word painter, you probably need to choose, at least for now, choose the one you want the agent to see first. Which one is that? Well, it should sound like the main plot, and it should be the most interesting. Okay, now we're going to have a second paragraph. So word painter, if you really feel like you got to tell that person's another person's point of view, that goes in paragraph 2. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Just write the Mad Lib. All right, some of you guys are clearly cheating. That's okay. No, but Tree Hugger, what's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and comment on your first paragraph. So if your story doesn't fit the Mad Lib, it may actually be the case that your story, I don't know, has problems, may be hard to sell. Okay, Bill, that's like spot on. Bill Housley, I love that. Let me comment, Tree Hugger, on actually a couple of you, Tree Hugger and maybe also Cadence. You two both give me a complete first paragraph. Fine. There is a mistake you can make here, which is to focus on the subplots. Okay? You're not writing about subplots. So don't say things like the main character needs to come of age. The main character needs to come to terms with their culture. The main character has a challenged relationship with their parent. That's not it. That's subplot. That can be second paragraph stuff. Okay. First paragraph is plot. So usually you're talking about external things. Find the magic sword to save the kingdom. Win the chess tournament so we can pay off grandma's mortgage, right? And then fixing my relationship with Aunt Sally is the subplot. So Tree Hugger, actually, your problem is something like Babishka is going, or Babichka, I don't know how you say that, is going blind. And Katya has to take over her work, but doesn't have the ability, doesn't have the skills she needs, right? Like that's probably the challenge. She sets out to, make a pact with an ancient demon, but, she has to choose between, battling the evils of this demon or, starving to death. That's kind of your plot, I think. And Cadence, I would say sort of a similar thing, not understanding the manipulative, abusive ways, like not understanding his subplot. His problem is his guardians abuse him. By the way, I would not put those first 2 sentences in there. Sentence number 2 is really for the back, but I wouldn't say I learned your open. I would just submit. And I would say, Timmy is an orphan who is abused by his guardians. And then I would say as concretely as possible, whatever they do, they salt his water, they put rocks in his bed, they, put whoopee cushions on his chairs every time he goes to class. All right. And therefore he decides to whatever. Okay. So look, Kiri, kind of on the point you're making, what is the point of doing this Mad Lib? It's to get you thinking clearly about your story as a person who has a problem and takes an action, because most readers care about people who are sympathetic, people who have a problem, people who are admirable and are trying to do something. That's what sells most books to most people. Now, if you, oh man, we're already like almost to the halfway mark, so I'm not going to be able to. Well, we need 4 hours for this, not 2 hours. Um, living as a slave in a weird new world. Okay, Jenna, I like it. I don't know about facing the darkness within. That is a little bit subplotty and a little vague, but if I could make the harsh new realities more concrete, I would. Okay, these are good. The main character, best knight of his generation, great. He can't. He's sworn to a tyrant. Hey, choose between his oath and Trenna. This is good. Choose between his oath and his honor sounds a little bit vague. So when you turn this into a longer, meaning non-concrete, right? When you turn this into a longer paragraph, I would make those choices, specific, right? He can either become famous by, committing the murders that the tyrant wants him to, or he can, and he's sworn to, or he can, be good by defending the village against, his own lord or whatever. Okay, many of you guys, this is great. Some of you push beyond the Mad Lib. So, okay, by the way, if you get into an elevator, the famous scenario where you only have 60 seconds, this is what you would say. Hey, this is a story about a girl who more than anything wants to be left alone, but she can't because the emperor has realized that she's the hidden heir to the throne and a threat to his power, and he's sending assassins after her. So she sets out to, gather her father's retainer and recover her mother's wealth and power. Right, this is what you would say. Now, yes. So this is very good. Cadence, you are exactly right. The Mad Lib is not the first paragraph. The Mad Lib is to focus you on the main character, and maybe you're going to find you have to choose who the main character is, and it should be someone who sounds like a main character and is interesting. Their plot is interesting. Stakes should be big, right? In some sense, every story is about the ending of the world, right? A divorce is the ending of the world. The death of your sister is the ending of a world, right? But just make it kind of clear and concretely, how is the world ending for your protagonist? Again, vivid, tangible, concrete. Now, so the next step would be to take this information and flesh it out. Yes, so it sounds less formulaic. That's exactly right. But frankly, we're going to run out of time. So I'm just going to, sorry, you do have homework. This is homework. You need to write paragraph 1 on your own. Okay? I'm going to let you do that. We're going to go talk about a couple other things. So in paragraph 1, here are some other kind of ideas or skills or tricks. Okay? And we've already seen some of these. 1, voice. If your novel relies on a striking voice, so for example, if you were Daniel Handler and you wrote the Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events, right? I have not read the query letter for that series, but I would bet anything that he wrote that query letter. I would bet anything that he wrote that query letter in the Lemony Snicket voice, right? Or if your novel is, some kind of stream of consciousness science fiction novel in second person present, maybe consider if you want to write the query letter that way too. If you think or if it's like an exaggerated middle reader voice. I got a guy in my writing group. It was a middle reader kind of action comedy. And really was all about the absurd voice. And he wrote the query letter in that voice. And he picked up an agent at Writer's House and he sold it to Simon & Schuster. So think about voice as a possibility. Now, high concept. So we had this in a couple of your paragraphs you guys have already written. Here are some high concepts that I have actually used. So Witchy Eye is a novel of mine I wrote. And I said, hey, it's Game of Thrones meets Last of the Mohicans. Supernatural meets The Proposal. I actually used Game of Thrones meets Last of the Mohicans. I was at Worldcon, and I was out. They call it strolling with the stars. It's like a morning walk, and they have some of the editors and big name writers sign up to go each morning. I went out, and there were two editors, Beth Meacham from Tor and Tony Weisskopf from Baen, and they said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a writer." And I was wearing a black blazer, and they said, "Yeah, you look like a writer." And Tony said, what do you got? What are you pitching?" And I said, "Well, this fantasy novel called Witchy Eye. It's Game of Thrones meets Last of the Mohicans." Beth Meacham of Tor snorted and turned her back on me. Okay, why do I tell you this, man? You're going to get rejected. There are pitfalls. Doesn't always work. Having said that, Tony Weisskopf, 4 years later, bought the book. Okay. So look, what do you want to do with these comparisons? Make sure people recognize them, and ideally that, in other words, comparing your story to the movie Metropolitan is going to just ring no bells with almost anybody. Okay. Comparing yourself to Harry Potter, people at least know what you're trying to communicate. Pick big recognizable comparisons. Know that this can downfall. People can backfire. Editors may say, "Well, you're no J.K. Rowling," right, or whatever. Nevertheless, Last of the Mohicans. Everybody knows what Last of the Mohicans. Everyone knows what Huckleberry Finn is. Everybody knows what Game of Thrones. Also, make sure that what you are your comparisons actually communicate something. Okay, just be clear what you're trying to communicate. Just naming two big properties, if there does not seem to be any kind of intersection space between them, may just be verbal spaghetti, may be nonsense. Something else you can do, and I think a couple of you have done this in some of your paragraphs, is you don't need to do this at all, Cadence. Cadence, you do not need to. Thanks, Sean. You do not need to have. You call these high. You do not have to have high concept comparisons in your pitch. You can just skip them. I would say, Len, they could be specialized if you're pretty sure the agent or editor is going to recognize them. Okay. Yeah. So here's the thing. Other agents will tell you other things. Take anything any agent says with a grain of salt. Agents don't know what sells. Agents have access to the editors. You need their help, but you need to not take too much what they say to heart. That's a whole other panel again, tree hugger. All right. You can also ask a question. Now, let me see. I think I've got an example here. Oh, yeah. So here's an example of a question. This is from the same the case of the Devil's Interval. It's the same pitch that got me my agent. This was the beginning of my first paragraph. What if the greatest crime-solving mind of the British Empire, Mr. Edmund Sirius, were a fraud? What if the true genius behind his famous investigative exploits were in fact the ghost of an 8-year-old girl? Now, by the way, I'm actually implying a high concept in here too, right? What's the very famous property that I'm pretty clearly referencing without saying? Oh, we probably have like 10 seconds of lag. So it's Sherlock Holmes, right? This is the beginning of the story for me. Was the idea, hey, what if Sherlock Holmes, if it was actually the ghost of a little girl that was the genius, and Sherlock Holmes was an idiot. So that's just an example of like what a question might look like. Again, ask a question if you think the question is amusing or interesting enough that the agent's going to go, I do want to read that. All right. And by the way, if you're not sure whether it is or not, this is a great thing. This is something writing groups can be really great for. Okay. It's a lot easier to write to read and critique a query letter than read and critique a 300-word novel. Okay, I'm going to give you like a minute. Write one high concept or a question and put it in the chat. Either one. Yeah, whatever. And again, Monjo, it may not be right for every book. You may be like, I'm not really sure that there is a question I can ask, or that there is a high concept comparison. That may be true, right? But for some books, this is a really good way to go. Oh, boom. Yeah, there was no Watson in the novel. Cadence in the novel I wrote. It was just Sherlock and this girl. All right, Rebecca, that's interesting. The Big Sleep meets Dracula. The vampires. Okay, fantastic. Oh, okay, very good. Cadence, I like that. Are the powers that be, that's interesting. That's either political or cosmological, depending on whether the powers that be are like the gods or the king. Yeah, high concept is comparable. Usually it's X meets Y, or one I used is it's Pinocchio if Jules Verne had written it, right? So, okay, wit right. I like that. The Great Escape means Dante's Inferno. Motorcycle. See, and you say that, and I see Steve McQueen on a motorcycle trying to drive out of hell. That's an excellent one. Okay. A mage finds a spell that kills magic-proof monsters. The fantasy retelling of the Scarlet Pimpernel. This was I saw that earlier, and that's fantastic. I love it. Oh, that's good, Rebecca. Thursday Next for middle grade. Now, I don't know the book Thursday Next, but I presume whoever you're selling it to will, and that's could just be a defect in my education. Blade Runner meets Mistborn. That could be really interesting. What I want to make sure I do, then in the rest of the letter, Jerem, is be sure that it helps make that comparison clear. So because I'm thinking, does this mean someone is out, like someone is sent to assassinate kind of wizards and turns out to be a wizard herself, but that may not be the right thinking. But hopefully, in context with the connection with the description of the book in over 2 paragraphs, that'll be real clear. Okay, Thorin Oaken, word painter. Thorin Oakenshield teams up with Mistborn's Vince. You're doing a high concept comparison with characters. I think that works fine. Again, as long as they're they're well known. I think in the fantasy genre, that's pretty hard to get more well known than that. Okay, fantastic. Oh, that's interesting. Sean Korsgaard. What if the Shaw Brothers adapted Conan the Barbarian Cthulhu Mythos? Now, here you got to be like, you got to make sure people know who your audience know who the Shaw Brothers are, and it may be easier to say, Conan the Barbarian Cthulhu Mythos, and then a Shaw Brothers film, whatever that is. I don't know who the Shaw Brothers are, but that may be a defect in my education. Okay, fantastic. We're going to run out of time, and I apologize in advance for that. But those are good. I like those. Let's talk about your paragraph 2. Okay? Paragraph 2. What goes in paragraph 2? Paragraph 2 is, this story sounds really good, right? Paragraph 1 is, this story sounds good. How do we get there? We focused on a character with a problem and a quest. Maybe we used a high concept comparison that helped. Maybe we asked an important question. Yes, Sean, I figured from the Wuxia reference probably, but yeah. Okay, so what about paragraph 2? Well, you're trying to not only keep them interested, but you're trying to now make them more interested. So look, what goes in your paragraph 2 is going to depend on the book you wrote and the genre that you are writing in, okay? We already had a little conversation about some examples. So if you have an ensemble cast, right? A book like an epic fantasy, and you got 8 different points of view, maybe, or it's a romance, and you have her point of view and his point of view, or her and her, whatever. maybe paragraph 1 is one person's point of view, and maybe paragraph 2 is another person's point of view, and maybe it's the second most compelling, or maybe paragraph 1 is sort of your lead, Frodo Baggins, and then paragraph 2 says, his companions include, and then you want to think about your Mad Libs information again. Aragorn, who wants to, recover his kingdom. Boromir, who is the heir to that same kingdom. Gimli, who wants to avenge the death of Durin, right? Whatever. Okay, so what else? Well, a genre can tell you what should go in there. So, fantasy tends to be setting heavy, setting focused. So maybe it's worth getting a little more information about your setting in paragraph 2. If you are a Sandersonite and what you've got is a cool magic system, maybe you want to talk in paragraph 2 about the magic system. If your book is based on real anthropological research about, I don't know, cannibalism in Mississippi or something, maybe you want to sort of talk about that, or about if it's science fiction, and I mean hard science fiction, and it's about some actual science point, maybe you want to talk about the actual science point. Always bearing in mind that the goal is not to educate, the goal is to keep and to raise interest. This is also where you might talk about subplots. So I think that some of you guys, and this is a natural, it's a common thing to do, in writing your paragraph 1, tended to go right for the subplot. She needs to come of age. She needs to gain more confidence. That's not really the plot, right? That stuff can go into your paragraph 2. And one thing that can do is it can demonstrate that you understand the genre, right? If you are correctly identifying, I wrote a middle reader book, the main character is 12 years old, she has this middle reader style challenge, right? So one thing I would say is I would stay just very far away from theme, always. Look, theme comes last. Theme either grows organically out of the book that you wrote, or you have written propaganda and it's just being forced in there. And so, look, if you really want to make sure that theme comes out in your query letter, make sure that in paragraph 1, make sure that your main conflict relates to the theme. But don't say, it is about conflict between the generations, or, whatever. Identify people with challenges trying to do things. Yeah, because the risk with theme is that if you say, here's my theme, the agent goes, oh, it is a preachy novel, right? Excellent. I know who to sell preachy novels to. All right. In the interest of time, man, I'm just going to give you this for homework. Okay. And here's what I'll do. But when we wind up, I'm going to put my slide deck into the chat, assuming I can, because it's like 5 megabytes. Aha. And so you can go back and get reminded if you're not taking screen caps or taking notes. Okay. Now, I just want to show you, I downloaded or I uploaded, I put in the chat at the very beginning a query letter that worked. I sold my novel, The Wilding Probate, got it picked up by an independent publisher called Immortal Works. And I just want to, you can read that in your own time. If you look at it, you're going to see that query letter is not a slave to the model. It's not 3 paragraphs. It does give kind of all the information we're talking about. It does use high concept comparisons. It does, make a call to action to the editors. But I haven't let the form dictate exactly, 3 paragraphs in the order I do everything in. And that's where you should want to end up too. Okay, a 3-paragraph query letter is like writing 5-paragraph essays in high school or college. It's to get comfortable with writing the essays. And later, if you write a 6-paragraph essay, that's cool. We're not going to look at it together because of interest of time. I need to get into talking about what do you do what do you do with your query letter? Okay. So here is an overview of how get. I'm going to focus on, at this point, I'm going to talk basically 100% about getting an agent, okay, as opposed to, sorry, I just there's a chocolate chip in the shag carpet of my office for some reason. My kids have clearly been playing down here. I'm going to focus on getting an agent. I think probably that's most of what most of you guys want to do. All right. Look, here's the overview. You want to get a good list of agents, and you want to keep querying them until they all say no. Okay, that's your goal, is to make them all say no. Cadence, that's a good question. If you're going to pose an initial question and answer it, you want this is like a whole other panel conversation. Okay, you hook people by leaving them with an unanswered question in their mind. So if you say, "What would you do if you could turn invisible?" Oh, well, Jimmy steals money and is rich. Like, okay, there you go. That's the story. You've now answered the question, and I don't care, right? So if the agent reads 2 paragraphs and has no questions in her mind and feels like everything's been answered, she has no reason to say, yeah, send me the rest of the manuscript, right? So if you're going to answer your initial question, boy, you better leave them with some other questions. I don't eat chocolate chips. I'm a grown-up. I go buy myself all the candy I want. I don't have to sneak baking supplies out of the kitchen. All right. So let me be. Oh, very good, Len. I'm going to actually show you specifically where to get a good list, and I'll tell you how many people you'll probably end up with on that list as a result. Okay, but I would say you should expect that you're querying something between 50 and 75 people. Auntie Sora, I'm going to answer that question. That is a very good question, because the goal is not to query them. You keep querying them until they say no. Now, I've got some screen caps from Publishers Marketplace. It's a year old. I haven't checked to make sure the screens look the same, but they've looked the same for 10 years, so they probably still look exactly the same. Publishers Marketplace is a subscription website. It costs $25 a month. You can cancel anytime. That means you can sign up. You can use. We're gonna get to this, Kylie. Hold on. I got 47 minutes still. You can use it for a day to get what you want, and you can cancel. So it costs you $25, which is like a book. A non-response does not equal a no. Cadence, hold on. Answers are coming to all of these excellent questions. So why do I recommend Publishers Marketplace? Well, Publishers Marketplace has a forum where editors and agents go and announce deals. Okay? And the announcements sound like this. Agent Sally just sold a 3-book deal for first-time scribe Penny to editor Bob at Macmillan in a big deal. Okay? And maybe they'll actually have like a 1-sentence description of the book or the series. Okay? So, by the way, that it's a big deal, a good deal, a nice deal, a major deal. That actually has a specific meaning. There's a chart that says, oh, good deal means more than $10,000, less than 25. Okay, so it's telling you how much money the author got. Now, those announcements, you can read them. If you stay subscribed, you get daily stuff and you see what's selling. So, it's not the worst thing in the world to be subscribed to Publishers Marketplace on an ongoing basis. $25 a month is a little steep. There is information there. But if you just want to get on for one day, $25, or for 1 month, that announcement information is accessible through what is called their deal makers tool. Okay, that's what you want to use, and I'm going to show you how it looks. So let's see. So this is the outer page. You log in. I did this a year ago for LTUE last time. So this was what the page behind looked like. And over there on the left, you see it says Deal Makers, which I have circled in red for you, right? You click through, it looks like this. Now notice there are drop-down menus where you can choose type of deal maker. Like what? Like, well, editor or agent. So you can use this to find editors as well as agents. Okay, and also the category. So deal maker type and deal category. Category basically means genre, and this you can see down at the bottom. There's actually more genres than fit on a single screen, right? So you click on both those things, and you get a list of the top 100. Now, by the way, you can toggle this too. So let's see. Do I have? Yeah. So you can toggle between. Tell me who's doing the most deals. That's your overall, and tell me who's doing the most six-figure deals. And you can see the number one was this guy. I mean, a year ago. He's a big name. He's probably still in the top. So what do? You wrote a fantasy romance novel. So you say, I'm looking for agents in the category fantasy. Show me the top deal makers, copy, and you paste it into a Word file. Then you say, toggle, show me the top deal makers, but who did $100,000 plus deals. You get a slightly different list, copy, and paste. Now you're going to have duplications, so you delete the duplications. But hey, you wrote a fantasy romance, so you do that for fantasy. Now go do it for romance. Okay, or maybe you wrote a YA fantasy romance. Do it for YA. And if you know that your work in process is a science fiction novel, and you only want to be logged on for a day, go grab those agents too. What you're getting here is a list of agents. Can you get lists of agents for free elsewhere? You totally can. What's the advantage of getting from here? Here, they're all actually doing deals. They've actually sold something. They've actually sold something in the last 18 months. Okay, every single one of these people. So, all right, so you got a list of agents. You're going to have duplicates. So even if you copied 400, you don't have 400 names. You got maybe like 120. Okay. Now, unfortunately, those 120 are not all going to be useful to you. I uploaded a spreadsheet, by the way. It's super simple. You may want to add extra columns. You can. It looks like this. I put this in the beginning of the chat. It's a spreadsheet that I use. All right, so you get a list of agents. Now the next step is to go look at the agents. Okay, this is Google foo. You got to Google these agents. They will all have some place on the internet where you can find them. Okay, at this point, there's nobody out there that you want to work with who is not online. They usually have a website. Very occasionally, you'll find someone who's like a solo agent who has like a LinkedIn page instead. But in that case, it'll still be publicly findable, and it'll still have the information that you need. Now, the agent will say things like, these are the genres I'm looking for, or these are the genres I represent. They will say whether they're open or closed. You're going to find some that say we're not open this time. That's okay. That's okay. Just don't put them in your spreadsheet or indicate not open at this time. You can always go back and check later. Or they might say, open, but only from to referrals from existing clients. And then you can, try and figure out somehow if anybody in your writing group or someone is an existing client of theirs. You're looking for people who say, though, that they're open to queries. And the truth is that a lot of them will be. They have to be, because their existing writers die and get depressed and write books that bomb. And get wildly successful and go off to Hollywood and stop writing novels anymore, right? And so they need to always be looking for new writers. So a lot of agents, not all of them, are going to be open. They will also tell you how to contact them. Now, here is where I was saying earlier, right, that usually what an agent will say is email me at this email address and, send your query and the first X pages or the first chapter of the manuscript. By the way, this can be a place to be a little bit tactical. Okay. The case of the Devil's Interval, that query I sent out, actually put the second chapter in because it read more like a first chapter and it ended on a better hook. So that's the one I included, and it got me an agent. An agent can't tell exactly how many is 10 pages versus 12 versus 8 looking at an email. So make sure that you're ending on a hook, right? And as we were just saying, meaning an unanswered question, something that makes the agent want to know more. Very rarely, you will see agents who want other things, like upload the manuscript as a PDF because they're trying to avoid viruses or whatever, as a PDF to my website here. I didn't even know he's out there still, but there was at least one guy last time I looked who still insisted you had to mail him the whole manuscript. And then it's, you just have to decide, hey, am I interested in that much pain or expense to take a shot? I usually am willing to do something like create a separate document with the first 50 pages and email it. I never was willing to mail someone the manuscript and spend, $12 for a very small chance of success. All right. So you go research but that's up to you. That's up to you. And those guys who want the manuscript may be all done by now. Again, most of them want the basic thing. Now, here we start answering some of those questions. So what do? You query them. You keep track of when you queried them. You keep track of their responses. Here's what's going to happen. A lot of them are going to say no. A lot of them, and my experience is probably most of them, will not answer. What do? You query them again. Now, agents on their websites will often say things like this. Oh, if I don't query you, it's a rejection. And believe me, I remember every query I've ever read. So I'll recognize you and then you'll be, bad behavior. BS. My wife's agent sold a book that after she did a rewrite on it, that I actually queried him initially, and he didn't remember it all. Look, a non-answer is not no. A non-answer is a non-answer. It means the agent was at a conference and just deleted all the emails she got that day. It means it went into spam folder. It means something else. So query again. Let some time pass. I would say 6 weeks, and query again. This is a professional job. It's like at work. You got to keep track of it. It's what the spreadsheet's for. Now, if you use exactly the same subject line, you risk that their Outlook or their Gmail is going to organize those in a conversation. And then the agent might be like, oh, you should have taken my non-response as a no. So to avoid that, you slightly change the subject line of the email. So at first it goes like this, query the devil's dagger. All right. You email that, 6 weeks go by, no response. And then you go, query the devil's dagger. Okay. And then Outlook is not going to sort those in the same conversation. It'll just look like a new query. You are trying to make them all say no. The no's they give you. Yeah, I had queries respond after the book was published. So this is why I would say 6 weeks, and then you. Okay, so that's a good question. Now the laurels. Let's kind of talk about that. The only real rule is, and this is a rule not from agents necessarily. I mean, this is good advice. Don't query two agents at the same agency at the same time. Query all different agencies. Cool. If they come back and say, I need to have this exclusive while I think about it for 6 weeks, you can decide whether you want to give them a 6-week exclusive look or not. That's up to you. Many agents do not ask that. Some agents who just see themselves as being the best and at the top feel they have the right to ask that. I think it's kind of a dick request, but it's up to you whether you want to do that, okay? But there is no rule. Sean Korsgaard, you asked this question, can I only query one at a time? No, that will take you forever. You query them all. That list of 50 to 75, there's going to be some who are from the same agency. So you're going to query like 45 people in one go, okay? This is going to be like a whole Saturday. Now, usually, laurels and roses, if an agent A says no, you can query agent B. That's actually how I queried. So my first agent, I queried him. He said, man, that sounds good. I'm going to pass. Actually said, this is some of the best written, one of the best written submissions I've ever seen. I'm going to pass. And then I queried his partner, and she took it across the hall to him and said, I don't rep this stuff. I just do romance, but you should rep this. He reconsidered and picked me up. Of course, he dumped me a year later. Now, if the agency says a no from one of us is a no from all, I don't know the answer to that, Laurels and Roses. You got to, I think, decide, do I risk offending them by querying someone else? You can always say, oh, mea culpa, I didn't get that. But maybe the truth is, it may be the case they sit and discuss every one. That seems unlikely. I suspect the real truth is, if they say no immediately to your query, you're okay querying someone else. If they read the book and say no, maybe you, and then they say don't query anyone else here. That might mean they discussed it as an agency. Ordinarily, you get a no from one agent, you query the next person at that agency. Okay, and the goal is to make them all say no. Now, we're getting to answer some of the other questions. Here are some things I would not do. One. Yeah, if I said 6 months before cadence, that was a mistake. I think my slide said 6 weeks, and that's what I meant to say, 6 weeks. This will take you a few months, probably, but you don't want it to take a few years. Yeah. Okay, so look, agents will sometimes feel like they should give you advice, okay? Here's what you should do. Ignore it. So let me tell you 2 stories. One, on the same book, on the same day, a book that later picked up my second agent and sold and was published by Random House, I had 2 big-name agents respond. Same book, same day. One said, the characters are lovely. The plot's kind of flat. The other one said, man, this plot is really great. Too bad your characters are two-dimensional, right? Agents are not writers, and they're usually not even editors. Sometimes they're former editors. They don't know what's going to sell. The truth is, they often don't even really know good writing. They are people that have the connections that you need, okay? You don't take their advice. Now, what are the exceptions? Well, one, if 5 agents all say the same thing, you should think about it, right? If you're getting the same response, think about it. 2, sometimes an agent will respond and say, okay, listen, I'm interested. I have some comments. Are you willing to take them? Then you need to think about whether you're willing to take them or not. Maybe you are so wedded to your vision, you don't want to. But what is the agent doing? Well, the agent's trying you out to see how you are to work with. Because the agent's got to turn around and sell your manuscript and wants to be able to say to the editor, Cadence was, I had some comments. Cadence was really professional, turned it around quick and did a great job, right? So you need to make a call on that. Having said that, okay, here's another story. My first agent, so the comment he had, the little girl solving Sherlock Holmes cases, right? One of his 3 comments was, this character needs to be a boy. Said, this is an adventure story. Boys read adventure stories. Change this character to a boy. And I felt like I had no leverage and I was new and I don't know what to do. So I said, okay. And so I changed it to a boy, but he was a boy in a dress. I wrote a series of gags around that. It was still a good story, but it went from being a girl to a boy. Okay. Well, no one picked the book up at that time. 2 of the rejections said, we are really looking for girl protagonists right now. We love this story. We're looking for girl protagonists, which, of course, my agent did not acknowledge that he had caused us to not sell the book. But fine. So if the agent says, I have comments because I'm considering representing you, then maybe. The worst rejection letter I've ever gotten, by the way, I've gotten this from the same agent twice. It's this long letter. And it says, or it's an email, right? And it says, I don't have time to respond to you in person. I'm passing. Most likely, I'm passing for one of the following 2 reasons. Either your characters really suck, or I forget what the other thing was. And she has this form rejection email. She just sends that as generic advice to anybody she's passing on. It's the most arrogant damn thing imaginable. Okay, so that's a lot of time spent on that point. You're not going to agents to try and get their feedback. I would not try to customize your query. I would not say things like, you represent Jim Butcher, and so I want you to represent me. Or I saw you speaking at the BEA, okay? Unless they really know who you are. If you talk to them at the buffet for 5 minutes about what your critique of Game of Thrones, don't mention that. If it's your cousin's husband, you can say, "Hey, I'm Sally's cousin," right? Yes, mention that. I wouldn't tell the agent, "Oh, I chose you because of X." Look, the truth is, you don't know what agent's going to be good for you or bad for you. The likelihood is you will get one offer of representation if you get any. If you're in a position where you get 2 or 3 offers, great. You can interview them and audition them and stuff. That's my wife was in that position. And then you can say, "Oh, here's what I like about you. You represent these guys." Don't do that in the query letter. If anyone asks you to pay to query, they are thieves. Do not do it. If your agent says, "Pay me up front before I query," he is a thief. Do not do this. Agents get paid 15% out of money you make because of their efforts, okay? Or sometimes, like if they have to sell your agent together with a European agent to sell rights in Germany or something, sometimes they'll take 20% and split between them. By the way, this is a global point. Lisa. Suggested I join a writers group. Rebecca, what a bastard. Okay, so synopsis. Zarapath. Let me come back to that in a minute. Okay, so a couple more. Actually, let me answer the synopsis question now. I have never written a synopsis to this day. I've got 10 traditionally published novels. I've never written a synopsis. My wife's agent likes her to write synopses, so she has to write synopses when he goes out and pitches them, and they're kind of like summaries of the book where each chapter gets 1 or 2 sentences. And here's the thing about full series synopsis: when you're pitching a trilogy, what you're going to pitch is you're going to have a query letter, much like the one you sent to the agent, and then you're going to have like a paragraph for book 2 and a paragraph for book 3. The truth is, in editing, book 1 is going to change enough that book 2 is probably going to be different from what you thought anyway. So those paragraphs are just to give an indication of where the series may go as I'm thinking about it right now. But editors know what they're buying into is a relationship with you where it may go different directions. All right. I remember this. This is here. I'm going to tell you the most important thing right now. You're going to hear this whole symposium right now. This is the most important thing you are going to hear. Okay. As a writer, you are not anybody's employee. You are not your agent's employee. You are not your publisher's employee. You are the owner of your own business. That means you make all the big decisions, and you have leverage. You are producing the delightful product, and you run the risk that your decisions go wrong. Okay, that is like the high meta level advice you should have in mind at all times. And then one last piece, and this is true for like book deals and stuff. Man, just be really slow to announce stuff. It's so exciting when you're talking to an agent. But if you go on social media and say, "I'm talking to an agent," and then they pass, you just feel like crap having to say they passed. Just wait. I had this 2-year conversation with a publisher that just ended. Okay, and in November they actually said in email, in person, we're sending your agent a 2-book deal. Write that book for us you just pitched. We're sending your agent a 2-book deal. So I wrote the book. In December, they said, finance has signed off, big projections, really excited. We're sending a 2-book deal right over. Send us the manuscript now. I gave them the manuscript. Then they backed out. I am glad I never announced to social media or elsewhere that I was having those conversations and who it was, because now I would just be like, "Oh, so-and-so passed, and they're liars, and I'm, right?" So look, that's happens behind the scene. You talk to your writing group, you talk to your significant other, and you go, "Man, those bastards," or "I'm excited." Don't announce until ink is on the contracts. In fact, ideally don't announce until you have money. And then you say, "Oh, my first book is coming out." It just saves net on your stress. Okay, you know what? I thought we had more here, and so I rushed a little bit earlier up front than probably I needed to. But the result is we have kind of 15 minutes now that I did not realize we were going to have. So this is great. Because you guys have questions and answers. Or you guys have questions and comments, and I can potentially give you answers. So hit me up. What questions have I missed? What else do you want to talk about? I will also, by the way, upload my slide deck so you can. We'll see if it works. In your first query letter, Zarapath, I would not do that. When your agent, oh yeah, looks like the PowerPoint uploaded. When your agent takes the book to editors, okay, so the first query letter is going to say, hey, here's book one, and it's it's in a series, and then the agent will say, okay, now once they pick you up, the agent will say, okay, we should write something giving an indication of how the sequels go, and then you write that kind of one paragraph or maybe two. That's interesting. So hold on, Laurels. Let me go look at your email or your question. My screen was obscuring it. Laurels and Roses. Any tip for telling people that I'm a serious? Man, that's really hard. Yeah. So on my wife's side of the family, there was a guy. There is a guy. She has an uncle by marriage who everyone was, oh, he's the writer. Well, him being a writer had never sold him anything. He wrote a screenplay adaptation of the Book of Mormon. So in the family, there's this pre-existing understanding of what a writer is, and it's not a legacy I want tacked onto me, right? Because it's somebody who has rinky-dink jobs and doesn't really provide well for his family because he's chasing these kind of crazy writing ideas that never pan out, right? I don't have a good solution for it except to just take your licks. Say, yep. And say, how's it going? You say, well, here's what I am doing now. And if they say, what's going to happen? Always just tone down their expectations. Well, these are all long shots. But as I'm querying my most recent novel, I'm also outlining the next one. And it's just going to happen that people are going to stay stuff. And at a certain point, I got 10 traditionally published novels, and I still have neighbors say things like, I haven't read your novel yet. Oh, which one? Which one? I got 14 novels out, plus novellas and 2 volumes worth of short stories. Which thing have you not read yet? There's a great James McMurtry lyric. I forget what song it's in, but it goes, are those songs real or did you make them up? And you are just going to get that. And I'm sorry, but that's just part of the deal. I have never done pitch mad. I think people sometimes pick up agents that way. I would say, look, if it takes little time and little extra effort, it's probably worth doing. Here's another kind of overarching point. Look, in the gold rush, in the 49 gold rush, most of the miners went bankrupt and never did well at all. Who made a lot of money was people who sold sieves and jeans and picks and food to the miners. And in writing, there are more people than ever. There are more ways than ever to publish. There are more people than ever trying to publish, and there are more people than ever trying to make a living by selling you stuff. So anytime anyone says, oh, I can help you, you just got to pay, man, that really gets my alarm bells going. If it's tweet with a hashtag, why not do it? But if it's pay $200, come to this event, you'll get, and then you can pay an extra $50 and you can sit down and pitch an editor. Here's how those go, okay? Every single person who sits down with that Random House editor, I've seen this multiple times, gets a positive and friendly response. That editor, very few editors are going to say, no, that's not for us. They're going to say, that's really interesting. Send it to me. And then they don't read it. And I've had people email me and say, hey, your editor from Random House was here and she was excited about my book, but she hasn't answered my email follow-ups. Can you reach out to her? No, she actually, it was a It it was a lie. It was a polite evasion. She doesn't want to read your books. She just wanted you to feel good about yourself. So I just, man, be aware that people who are charging you money have interest in charging you money, don't necessarily have other interest in your success. I am not interested in paying anyone who says they can make connections for me or get me a book published. But tweeting someone, tweeting and tagging someone, that may be. Querying small publishers directly, yeah. So yes, I can. And by the way, in sci-fi and fantasy, a lot of those publishers are open to being queried directly and to working with writers without an agent. My publisher Bain is. I think Tor still has an email address published on their website where you can email them. I would say, so I uploaded into the chat my query letter for the Wilding probate, which was a query letter to a small publisher. And it worked very much like an agent. I went to their website and I looked at what they said they wanted to see. And I think it said, query letter plus first 5 pages. So I put the query letter plus the first 5 pages into a document and then you upload it via their website. But it's basically the same kind of query. I also received and read those queries when I was the Wordfire Press acquisitions editor, and I acquired a lot of books. Now, of course, small publishers, the economic deals are very different. You're usually talking about no advance, maybe a bigger share of the royalties, maybe publishers that really focus more on ebooks rather than getting you into bookstores, or they won't have the infrastructure to ebook stores. But the process is basically the same. For any of these parties, by the way, this is true for agents as well as for editors at publishers. There's usually somebody who's doing the reading who is not the editor or who is not the agent. I know my agent has a reader. I know, Bain has a whole cadre of people under a slush master general who read slush, who read the unsolicited manuscripts, but even who read manuscripts that they email back. If the agent emails says, "Let me see it," they probably still have the reader read it first. So that's something to bear in mind. That probably the first person reading your manuscript is not somebody that really has a lot of discretion. It's somebody who's been told to follow a set of directions. And they are likely, so here's a story. Stephanie Meyer, Twilight is 120,000 words, first book, which is way too damn long for the genre. And the only reason she got picked up is because when Stephanie Meyer submitted to the agent had just hired a brand new reader. And the reader did not realize that there were word counts appropriate to genre. She fell in love with the book and passed it on to the agent, even though it's half again longer than it should have been, right? So if she hadn't happened to have that bit of luck, the reader would have knocked her right out of the process. Okay, don't revise, just resubmit. So I would. So that is, I'm to a significant extent, Rebecca. I am agreeing with Heinlein. If an agent gives you comments, again, unless you're getting the same feedback, just resubmit. So what if you didn't know your novel needed work? So again, if you're getting different, ask someone whose judgment you trust to read it. By the way, if they're not a writer, they may not be able to articulate what exactly is the problem. They may just say, "I'm having a hard time enjoying it." Here's something I understand Orson Scott Card does. He has like 2 marks. It's like an X and an O or something. I don't know. And he gives the reader a copy and says, "All I want you to do is anytime you don't understand what's going on, put an X. Anytime you are bored, put an O. That's it." Right? Because a reader who is not themselves a writer or an editor may not be able to say, "Oh, I think the problem is your character is not sympathetic enough. Oh, I think the problem is, the plot is too complicated." But if people can give you feedback that says, "Here's where I get bored," or "I don't care about this stuff," that you can think about it and figure out what you think you should do. You can also hire editors. Again, there are people out there who are great editors, and they'll, for $2,000 or $3,000, review your manuscript for sure. I have never paid for that service myself. I think you can usually get, unless you're going straight to self-publishing and really want a tight edit, I think you can usually get the feedback from a writing group or from somebody else. I think it's a mistake to query one batch and then do another draft. I think you can always revise your query letter and submit again, and they will not remember that you submitted with a different query letter 6 months earlier. They simply will not. So I think the query 5, edit query 5 is BS advice. Okay, I think I just got a notice saying there are 5 minutes left. Okay, Mary Edvilson, is it common for small agencies to reply back after a couple of days of querying? You get query letters immediately. It's not necessarily effective a poor query letter. Your goal is to get them no's. Is to get them no's, get those no's, get no's from them. It's just probably an indication that they happen to see your query right away. If you query 50 people, you're going to get some rejections the same day, and you're going to get a bunch the next day. That's not a problem. That is progress. Okay, they may query, they may say, "Oh, this sounds cool." It's actually not what I'm looking for right now, right? They may think that even if they don't say it. So no, I don't think it's effective a poor query letter. Lisa, that's awesome. You should ask her. That's funny. I'm in a different situation. Ali Condi is in the process of moving into my ward, so I think I'm about to become the, oh yeah, Dave also writes. Yes, no honor in his own country. Tree hugger, it's your goal to get agents to say no because you want to force everyone to a damn decision. Now, sooner or later, someone will say yes. That's what you really want. But you can't force them to say yes. You can force them to you can keep persisting until they give you an answer. That's really what the goal is. She published her book on Amazon. You should too. It's great. People get really rich. Yeah, 1 in 100,000. Yeah, word painter, that's exactly right. You want to get everyone to make a decision. The entire query process, here's the deal. You want to, this is a good question, Zorapeth. You budget a full Saturday to send out your query letters. And after that, it's just like, it's a maintenance project. When a response comes in, you put it in your spreadsheet, right? And maybe you query the next person in the agency, but you don't budget 6 months. You write the next book while you're doing it. I would only start reevaluating the manuscript. So you might keep track if agents give you reasons, you might keep track of those. Probably you'll remember, right? Honestly, if they're all saying, I hate your protagonist, you are going to remember, or this is just boring. So you can but if you want to keep track of that specifically, you can put that in your spreadsheet and then reevaluate when you get, I don't know, 3 or 4 or something. Yes, totally send out multiple books at once. I didn't quite fall in love with it. Yep. Which really, that's Trisha, that's code. What it means is I can't figure out how to sell it. Fall in love with it is BS. I can't figure out how to sell it. Yeah, most try to be polite. The most honest answer is it's just not a good fit for me at this time, right? And behind that might be something else. I can't figure out how to sell it. I don't know what genre it is. Whatever. Celebration Bonfire didn't pull me in. That's awesome. Okay, I think we are out of time. Hey, let me just remind you all that I am giving away 5 books this week. You can enter into the drawing for a chance to win right there. But I think they're going to shut this down here any minute. So thank you all very much, and have a great symposium.